this happen, let Jamie Bailey step down, not in disgrace, and then move on from there into the leadership race. And then it may have come out in its own time, but they can say that we cut ties with Jamie Bailey at that point in time. So I think that it does say something that they were willing to publicly basically fire him for these allegations. So again, kind of kudos to the Conservative Party for doing the right thing. Slightly different scenario in Ontario. Out of nowhere, kind of, Patrick Brown, who was sort of seen to be the premier of Ontario in waiting, stepped down due to some allegations of sexual impropriety as well. One former summer student claims that the now ex-Ontario Tory leader kissed her during a 2013 party when she was just 19, and he was, sort of almost double her age. I do want to say, so there's less concrete evidence going on in this sort of situation. They didn't have a chance in Ontario to do the same sort of process as they did here in Nova Scotia. These allegations came out through the media. I do want to throw a little shade towards Christy Blatchford, okay? Noted blowhard. And here's the thing. I know that Kathleen Wynne, who's the Premier of Ontario, and the Ontario Liberal Party, they've been in power for forever and a day. And they're not very popular. It was sort of assumed that the Tories would overtake them in the next election, just simply because the Ontario, whenever you have a party that's in charge for a long time, they eventually do something, and they eventually have enough bad will that builds up that they're ousted for a while. So it was almost certain that it was going to be the Conservatives that did that. But Christy Blatchford, wrote this op-ed for the Edmonton Journal, which I was linked to, which is, exactly what you would kind of expect it to be. It's titled, "What Happened to Brown is Fundamentally Wrong. Every man in the world is now vulnerable." Okay, here's the thing. No, they're not. If you're not putting yourself into a situation where you are sexually improper with people who work for you, you're not in trouble. If you never put yourself in that position where you could possibly be alleged to, if there's ever a question, you're in trouble. Absolutely. If you leave yourself open to those sorts of questions, you're absolutely in trouble. She has this line in there. "If reporters have to be the new detectives and media of the modern court, let there be some rules. Perhaps journalists should be required to video their interviewers with accusers, as is the gold standard for police. The entire interview can then be posted online, so that viewers/jurors know what questions were asked, what weren't, and see for themselves the body language of it all. Perhaps investigative journalists should," scare quotes around investigative there, "should have to take the same courses cops do in how to interview people without leading them or suggesting the answers that they want." So she argues in this piece that there's no merit to these accusations because they're anonymous accusers, and that that we should that journalists should only go with they should swear off of anonymous accusers or anonymous sources, or not naming their sources in their pieces unless there's some mounting evidence and some sort of public need for it. You do realize that there was, Christy, right? There are libel laws in Canada that would basically do exactly what you're asking to be done here. I don't think that we're going to see these sorts of things published, accusations like this published, unless against a specific individual, unless there is, mounting evidence that proves that that these allegations are at the very least credible. A lot of people said, I see this all over Twitter after the fact, that like, oh well, yeah, like this is a Giancomeshi thing all over again, where it's sort of that open secret in the media where everybody kind of knows Patrick Brown's kind of a creep, right? Everybody kind of knows that this guy, don't let your daughter around him if she's had some drinks. Everybody knows all these things, and it's just like finally coming out into the world, and like she's trying to equate this to the false situation that happened a couple of weeks ago, where a young girl, 13-year-old Muslim girl, who was claimed that her hijab was cut, and it turned out that ended up being a fake story. That wasn't an accusation against an individual person, okay? That was an accusation that was made up by a 13-year-old girl, right? Like the prime minister's job in that case is to say, this isn't the place that Canada is, to try and calm the situation so that that other Muslim people don't feel scared in this situation. If it ended up being fake, it ended up being fake, whatever. But like to equate these two things, where it's like accusations against a person, where like the individual, if the person can prove that these things didn't happen, against the individual news media outlet that reported them, that outlet, if they haven't done their homework, they're in trouble, man. Like, it's not the same fucking thing. Anyhow, that's it on Patrick Brown. Finally, in the federal Liberal Party, a cabinet minister has also been turfed. Sports Minister Sports and Disabilities Minister Kent Hehr resigned from cabinet pending an official investigation into allegations of sexual harassment. Prime Minister Trudeau issued a statement from Davos, where he was there for that economic forum, calling it a leave of absence in the face of these allegations. So the resignation came after some more posts on Twitter alleging inappropriate behavior. Basically, the tweets said that women were fearful about even getting into the same elevator as him in the Alberta legislature when he was there, where he was a member from 2008 rather to 2015, and he made some unwanted sexually suggestive comments. Lost my ability to talk today. So, yeah, it cuts across all parties, and it really does show that this is a problem with anyone who has power, and it's more conversations will come, and more people will be outed. Just hopefully going forward. Hopefully going forward, we do see the changes that need to be made, so that it sort of stops happening. All right, that's enough about that. We're gonna move on now into some news about John Cena. So I didn't know that I needed this news. Oh, I hope that this ends up being true. Hollywood Reporter reported this week that John Cena is getting ready to shoot up some aliens. Hail to the king, baby. So it looks like the former WWE champion turned actor is in negotiations to star in a movie based on Duke Nukem, the big screen adaptation set up by Paramount of the the very popular shoot 'em up first person shooter from the 90s. So Duke Nukem 3D was like the first person shooter that I'd ever played, and like I never really moved past Duke Nukem 3D in terms of first person shooters. To me, it is the best first person shooter. You can take your Halos and you can put them aside, because Duke Nukem 3D was the first one for me, and it was the best. Of course, there's Doom and Wolfenstein and all those sorts of things as well. I don't like modern first-person shooters. I don't think that they're particularly interesting games. But man, like I have so many good memories of Duke Nukem 3D, playing it when I was frankly far too young to appreciate the humor, and far too young to be looking at that many pixelated boobies. So I just honestly, like, I think this is like fantastic. Like, it's the level of casting where it's just like, that's got to be a fake rumor. Like, it's got to be something that some fan made up. But apparently it's pretty real. Like, apparently it's been optioned by Paramount, set to be directed. There isn't a director yet. Set to be produced by Platinum Dunes, company by Michael Bay, Andrew Forum, Brad Fuller. So it's one of those movies that could be an absolute train wreck. It could be absolutely awful, but I'm going to see every second of it in the theaters if and when it comes out. Just because John Cena has the type of comedic timing that he could do Duke Nukem some justice. He's got the right look, and it could just be a really fun first-person shooter turned movie. So here's hoping. Fingers are crossed. We're going to move swiftly into it because we're getting towards the end of the show, and I did say that I would cover this. And, you know, like I said, if you took the dog around the block twice last week, you probably missed the government shutdown. But the government in the United States is back up and running thanks to a deal that the Republicans were able to strike in order to do another continuing resolution to help fund the government for a couple of weeks. So here's the thing, like, honestly, like I said last week, the government shutting down has real world impact on real people who aren't getting a paycheck during that period of time. It has a real world impact on people in terms of being able to access government programs. It has a real world impact on all of them as well. What will also be a real world impact is if this gambit doesn't work. It looks like they've taken CHIP, which is basically the healthcare funding program for children. Children Health Insurance Program. So a bunch of kids who did not have health care have it again, which is good. But apparently, like, CHIP has been taken off the table, and like any sort of funding bill. So they're going to try and pass a for realsies budget, and the Republican, the White House's version of what they want to see in that budget is apparently going to come out later on today. Monday as you're listening to this. So apparently what they're going to do is they're going to have a vote on the Dreamers separately in like a straight up and down vote, which is basically mean that there would have to be nothing else. It wouldn't be attached to anything else. It wouldn't be attached to a funding bill or anything like that. The Dreamers' path to citizenship, which they so desperately need at this point, would be just sort of its own thing. Okay, if this works, and everything goes the way that, we all sort of hope that it does, then nobody really is hurt by this in the long run. The government shutdown was such a blip on the radar that nobody's going to remember it by the time they're casting a ballot in November. And then, the Dreamers are citizens again. There you go. If it doesn't, though, and here's what I actually genuinely see sort of happening, is that the Senate passes something, and then the House can't, and then these people get deported. And just hopefully that doesn't happen, because like I think everybody kind of wears that in the end. It's the Republicans for not passing it. It's Paul Ryan for not passing it through the House. It's the Democrats for not applying the pressure in a correct way when they needed to, and then that just ends up hurting the Democrats' chance for taking back the White House in 2020, because what Donald Trump has done better than anything else that he has done in the White House is he's activated Democrats. He's activated the left. He's gotten the base of the Democratic Party, the progressives in the Democratic